Hello, my name is Jane Sukup. Welcome to the first sustainability webinar for the 2015-2016 school year. This webinar is for past participants in the Secondary Transition Mentoring Project and the College and Career Readiness Team Training. The webinar is sponsored by the Arizona Department of Education Exceptional Student Services Division and the University of Kansas Research Collaboration. The www.arizonatransition.org website is still up and running. Please make note that your cohort, whether it be the 11-13, 12-14, or 13-15 cohort, is still listed here. So any of the materials you placed in your team folders or action plans, along with any of the PowerPoints and resources we provided at sessions 1 through 6, are located at arizonatransition.org. The sustainability page is also an active link on arizonatransition.org. Here you'll find our webinar PowerPoints that also include supporting articles and an action planning job aid that your core and expanded teams can use as you continue to work around developing college and career competencies at the Tier 1 level. The resources page has also been updated with some new college and career competencies short videos and some new college and career competency measures, particularly for goal setting and self-regulation. The College and Career Competency Wheel has also been updated, so a new PDF version is provided at arizonatransition.org. To complement the College and Career Competency Wheel, we wanted to share a recent article from NPR Ed. If you're looking for a reflection piece that will get parents, teachers, and community members talking about inter and intrapersonal skills, take a look at this article. It's been our experience that people who read this article get good discussion going about the importance of these non-academic skills. After these skills are highlighted, it's a great opportunity to then work into how do we best model and infuse inter and intrapersonal competencies within our environments, whether that be school, home, or the community. Recently, we conducted a study with 500 plus students about college and career competencies. The purpose of the study was to find out what students had to say about these competencies. We asked students to complete a college and career competency questionnaire. The questionnaire included many of the competencies from the College and Career Competency Wheel. On the questionnaire, competencies were listed, followed by a short definition of a particular competency. Then they were asked to check the box that best described their skill level for each of the highlighted competencies. So in other words, for goal setting is defined as setting, planning, and keeping track of progress to reach your goals. Did the student feel great about that? Good, okay, needs some work, or needs a lot of work? The competencies listed on this slide, self-regulation, conflict resolution, goal setting, initiative, and learning schema, are the 5 competencies that students indicated by means of this questionnaire as needing the most work. This study, along with a re-review of the most recent literature and research, is driving our professional development for the current STMP Crit initiative. Therefore, self-regulation and goal setting are our target competencies at sessions 1 and 4. When working with teachers about developing self-regulation for high school students, we wanted to share 4 main components of self-regulation: plan, monitor, control, and reflect. By focusing on components rather than worksheets or specific strategies, our hope is that teachers and family members will be better able to infuse these main components within their lessons and specific contexts. The 4 components are defined here and emphasize sort of a cyclical process where students are asking themselves, first, what does my plan include? Secondly, how do I know I'm accomplishing my task? How do I know I'm getting things done or following a good timeline? Third, what might help me better achieve my goal? Or what consequences, good or bad, can I give myself along the way to support my progress? And lastly, did I achieve my goal? And what self-regulation strategies worked best for me? Many students are able to articulate their plan, what it is they want to accomplish, whether it's their goal, a project, or just a simple task. And oftentimes, those same students have a great way to monitor their projects, like a worksheet, an app, or simple chart. But oftentimes, students struggle with taking charge and making changes when specific strategies that they've already come up with don't work well. What about the student who has a great plan for finishing their homework in the car on the way to their siblings' ballet lesson? But then, as they monitor their progress and realize they're not getting their homework done because their other sibling is crying in the background, or their family member's on the phone, or the music's too loud, they simply say, "I didn't get it done." In this example, they're not controlling for change. Again, the self-regulation components emphasize that the plan is critical, monitoring your progress is critical, but also controlling change by implementing specific strategies when things are not going as planned is critical, and reflecting on what worked and what you can do better next time is also important for self-regulation. Students who have a good understanding of these 4 main components of self-regulation can carry these components with them into any context, whether that's a context in high school or post-high school. Planning, monitoring, controlling, and reflecting, the 4 main components of self-regulation, can be either embedded into the curriculum or can augment the curriculum. Both are very valuable and will likely result in better academic outcomes. Augmenting the curriculum is very similar to the study plan we just talked about, where a student creates a study plan, monitors their study time, modifies their study plan when they have unexpected obstacles that they encounter, and reflects on their results. This is a great way to teach self-regulation. Another way to teach self-regulation is to embed it within the curriculum. So, if you're teaching a science course and have very specific content-related learning standards, you might want to explain to students how they are planning when they develop a hypothesis statement and design an experiment, and how they're monitoring when they collect data, and how they are making changes and controlling when they modify their experiment if something unforeseen happens with their experiment. And lastly, how as a part of all good experiments, you do draw conclusions or reflect on the work that was done. Again, whether it's augmenting the curriculum, embedding the curriculum, or even modeling self-regulation to your classroom, self-regulation can be easily infused within any context as long as you're emphasizing the basic components of planning, monitoring, controlling, and reflection. The more often students are exposed to these self-regulation components in a wide variety of contexts, the more able students will be able to generalize these main components to any area, whether those areas be in school or post-school. To help teams better think through how they can work with students in developing self-regulation, we've created a short vignette. This vignette is about Jim. Jim is a student who would like to save some money. And although it's not written in this vignette, Jim has had some trouble with this same area. So he comes up with a plan. The first part of his plan is that he got a new job, and that makes more money than his old plan. The second part of his plan is that he's going to put half of his paycheck into his shoebox. Now he recognizes that he's going to need some of this money that he's saving for a new phone to also go to the prom. Well, a couple weeks later, he states that he had a great time at the prom, but he still doesn't have enough money for the Samsung phone that he would like. And he comments that now he understands why people use banks. We share this little vignette to help teachers, parents, and students think through the importance of self-regulation in all aspects of life, even in saving money. So we sort of ask folks, did Jim have a plan? In this instance, in this vignette, yes, Jim absolutely did have a plan. He was going to use the shoebox. Now, the second component of self-regulation is monitoring. So again, in this vignette regarding saving money, but in life, it could be about completing a homework assignment on time. It could be about sustained reading, sustained writing, exercise. Did Jim monitor how he was doing on his money? Did he sort of take a look in that shoebox and say, My first paycheck is in, I put the money in there, it's staying in there a week later. Is it still in there? Is he sort of doing quick assessments of how his plan is going? And the answer here is we don't think he's monitoring very much because we can only see what he did initially and then 6 weeks later that happened. The third component is control. So the question is, does Jim take charge and make a change to his saving strategy when he realizes that he needs to save for 2 different purposes? Now, he recognizes right away that he has prom, and he recognizes that he has this phone he wants. But once he realizes that he's dipping into that shoebox for prom and really not accruing money for the phone he wants, does he come up with an alternative strategy? And from the vignette, we should say no, he doesn't. Now, people would say at this point, what's a better strategy? And that's a conversation to have with students and educators about better strategies in many different situations. And sometimes those strategies are going to come in the form of changing something within the student, maybe gaining more knowledge about something, or it might come in the form of changing something within the environment. So in this particular case, changing something within someone, building capacity within, would be Jim learning more about saving and growing that intellectual knowledge. Or for the environment, it might be Jim getting a different shoebox or going to the bank and getting a bank account. Or it could be a combination of both. But the control piece is that Jim feels that he has the ability to take charge and make a change given what he's learned from his initial assessments. And then lastly, a reflection. How does Jim reflect on the progress he's making toward his goal to save for a new phone? And he did do this according to the vignette, but we always encourage that the cyclical nature of self-reflection of the 4 components begins and sort of ends with reflecting. We'd also like to provide and show you where the self-regulation student assessment is located. Under the resource section, you'll find a student assessment that we've been working on. It's very aligned with the components of plan, monitor, control, and reflect. So you'll notice that items like 1 through 4 have to do with planning, and then later on it kind of goes through the monitoring, controlling, and reflect. We're piloting this assessment with several of our teams from the 14-16, 15-17 cohort, and we will also be shortening it and making it more useful and easy to use. But if you're interested in a measure that really highlights the main components of self-regulation, this one is accessible right now under the resources link at arizonatransition.org. Next, we would like to go on to goal setting and share 3 main goal setting components. The first goal setting component is that goal setting process be student-oriented and student-centered. The second one is that the goal focuses on mastery of tasks rather than better performance relative to others. And the third is that goal setting uses interest and skill assessment data, including input or feedback from family members, teachers, peers, or other trusted individuals. So all 3 of these components are needed for effective goal setting. So please consider these as you work with students in a variety of settings and teach these components to students as they work on setting goals within school and out of school. Let's take a moment to really break down each of the 3 goal setting components. The first one, that the goal setting process is student-centered, really highlights this idea that the student's goal is just that, their goal, not an adult's goal for the student. So, when it comes to a math class or a Spanish class, why does the student care? What is their connection to that class? So why should they complete it? Why should they get a good grade? What's in it for them? DC and Ryan in 2000, in some literature published, stated that students who pursue their goals for their own reasons rather than being told to are more likely to persist in trying to achieve their goals, and also deal better with setbacks than those who have goals forced upon them. The second goal-setting component is that the goal focuses on mastery of tasks rather than better performance relative to others. Goal setting is most effective when students focus on mastery goals, In other words, when their goals care and are directed at progress over time based on their personal learning and growth, rather than a comparison between their work and others. Simply put, with a mastery orientation, the student engages in a task to develop progress toward the ability over time, whereas with performance orientation goals, there is an emphasis on the demonstration of ability, and success is usually judged in relation to others' performance. Research shows that mastery goals are also consistently associated with higher levels of academic self-efficacy. So let's consider 2 goals written by a student. The first is, I will get a better grade than Isabel on a science test. This is an example of a performance goal because this goal emphasizes success as judged in relation to others' performance. The second is a mastery goal, which is, I want to get better at algebra, so I will spend time each night this week working on practice problems. This second goal emphasizes progress toward the ability over time. Recently, the Teaching Channel highlighted a video about mastery goals. The link provided on this slide shares the story of a teacher who changed how she returned the tests and assignments back to students after she had graded them. No longer does she put the letter grade on the test when she returns these papers back to her students. Instead, she hands out the papers and they're highlighted. Each of the highlights represents her feedback. She did this because her experience was that students would look at the grade and right away decide if they were good at math and never look at the test paper again. She now constantly reminds them that their grade isn't nearly as important as how much math they learn in her class. When returning the papers and discussing the highlights on the papers, she talks about her favorite wrong answers, why they are wrong, and how they can learn from their mistakes. In an effort to use the most recent research and improve goal setting for students, we'd also like to highlight the third goal setting component. That is, goal setting uses interest and skill assessment data, including input or feedback from family members, teachers, peers, or another trusted person. Time and time again, we hear the story about the student who wants to be the NBA basketball star, but yet doesn't know how to dribble a ball. We still encourage that student to set goals based on what they care about, emphasizing the student-centeredness of the goal-setting process. We also encourage that student to work on their goal based on how they are learning to dribble the ball over time, and otherwise emphasizing mastery goals. But during the goal-setting process, we also encourage that student to use interest and skill assessment data about their basketball skills. This isn't to crush their dreams, rather it is to give them a good understanding where they're currently performing and what they need to do to improve and make progress toward their goal. Students should also learn to ask for input from others, from people who play basketball, from people who coach basketball, or simply from people who are interested in basketball. The dream of becoming an NBA basketball star is just one of many goals this student will set over time. Other goals will have to do with academics or health. So the actual achievement in pursuit of becoming an NBA star isn't really the emphasis. The emphasis is that during the process of students talking about what they want to be post-high school, they learn and practice the 3 goal-setting components that improve the goal-setting process. In other words, they learn that their goal-setting process should be student-centered. They should truly care about what goal they are pursuing. They also learn that the goal should focus on mastery, about progress over time, rather than simply comparing themselves to others. And lastly, that they constantly seek interest and skill assessment data along with input and feedback from others. The next 2 slides are about Jill and how Jill uses the goal-setting components in thinking through her after-school activities. Jill's goal is to make the cheerleading squad this year. She wants an after-school activity to put on her college application, and her friend Mary is trying out too. Jill talks about how Mary has so many friends and has said hi to her the other day when she was messing with her new phone. So, Let's take a moment to think about Jill's goal of making the cheerleading squad, and if she's considering the 3 goal-setting components of being student-centered, focused on mastery versus performance, and also using interest in school skill assessment data and input or feedback from others. First of all, is Jill's goal based on something she cares about? What would Jill say? Jill would likely say yes, that she cares about cheerleading. But it's at this time that we might want to push Jill further about why she cares about cheerleading. Is it just that she needs something for her college application, or does she really have a connection and interest in cheerleading itself? Even more so, is she actually interested in cheerleading because Mary is interested in cheerleading? Next, is Jill's goal motivated by progress over time? Is there an indication anywhere in the conversation with Jill or in Jill's story that she is hoping to set small goals that will actually help her make progress toward achieving her ultimate goal of making the cheerleading squad? And lastly, in terms of assessment and input from others, is Jill's goal based on an assessment of her current cheerleading skills? Did Jill get input from someone who knows about cheerleading? From the vignette, we can't really tell if she did this, but if we were having a conversation with Jill right now, we might want to encourage her to get a list of what skills she needs to have down to make the squad, and also to have different folks watch her cheerleading skills and assess her current level of performance and offer her some feedback. Again, this is one instance of setting a goal, and for Jill, it's about cheerleading. But the main idea here is that Jill would walk away from this experience understanding that to have effective goal setting, she needs to make sure she cares about the goal, that she's focused on mastery of a goal, and that she gets interest and assessment data and input and feedback from others regarding the goal. These are the components that are transferable and generalizable between contexts and can be really connected and associated with effective goal setting in any aspect of her life, whether it be during high school or after. The Goal Setting Student Assessment is also available at the ArizonaTransition.org website under Resources. As with the Self-Regulation Student Assessment, the Goal Setting Student Assessment is aligned with the goal setting components that we just discussed. If you have any questions as you use the student assessment for one student, a small group, or a large group of students, please feel free to contact us. Next, we encourage you to try the College and Career Competency Tracking Log. This log is also located on the STMP website at www.arizonatransition.org under the Resources link. This log was created to help educators keep an eye on the progress of students' inter and intrapersonal competencies. There is a column titled Student or Group of Students, a column titled Target Competency, another column titled Observational Notes and or Family Input, Pre- and Post Data from Student Assessment, and also a column titled Document Review. The main idea here is that this tracking log will help you select a group of students, make a purposeful notation about what target you're trying to develop with those students, and then allow you to track progress in terms of observation, pre- and post data from student assessments such as the self-regulation or goal-setting student assessments that we just highlighted, or the document review in terms of project or homework completion. We often hear from educators that there is a great way for them to track the academics or the core content that they are teaching their students, whether it be math or reading or history. But they often struggle with tracking the college and career competencies that they are developing within their classrooms, primarily in the areas of interpersonal and intrapersonal domains. We hope that the information we've provided on the goal setting and self-regulation components are useful to you and your team as you try to develop college and career competencies school-wide. We've had some really good feedback from educators as they state that the components make it much easier to infuse the college and career competencies from the inter and intrapersonal domain within different contexts. We know that competencies can be taught and must be systematically infused into instruction to have an impact. Please continue with your efforts. The Action Planning Job Aid on the next slide is just an extra resource to help you and your core team or extended team think through the steps and areas of concentration as you work on developing college and career competencies. The first level, 1 through 5, lists different elements of action planning, whether that be around administrative support, teacher preparation, instruction, assessment, or lessons learned, reflection, and evaluation. This is not an exhaustive job aid, and you can add to it or delete areas that you don't think apply to you in your setting. During year 3, we hope that your team continues to work on developing college and career competencies in all the domains, cognitive as well as inter and intrapersonal domains. And we hope that the success of your work is demonstrated through improved academic achievement, graduation rate, decreased dropout rates, and improved post-school outcome data, as is indicated in the research on developing college and career competencies. In closing, we'd like to leave you with a highlighted research article from the American Psychological Association. This is an article from September 2015. The article summarizes the top 20 teaching and learning principles. And interestingly, many of the top 20 teaching and learning principles are aligned with the college and career competency framework that your STMP teams have learned about and focused on over the past several years. For example, number 1 of the top 20 teaching and learning principles is that students' beliefs or perception about their intelligence and ability affect their cognitive functioning and learning. This is very much aligned with self-efficacy from the intrapersonal domain. Another one of the principles highlighted in this article is that learning is based on context, so generalizing learning to new contexts is not spontaneous. In other words, learning goal setting in one classroom does not necessarily translate to applying goal setting in another classrooms. This is just another reason why multiple classrooms or all classrooms in school should focus on goal setting, self-regulation, or many of the other college and career competencies in addition to their academic course content. Number 9 of the top 20 teaching and learning principles states that students tend to enjoy learning and perform better when they are intrinsically than extrinsically motivated to achieve. In other words, student-centered goals and intrinsic motivation should be emphasized and encouraged as students set goals. There are many of the other top 20 teaching and learning principles that are aligned with the College and Career Competency STMP Crit project your teams have been working on over the past several years. Please use the downloaded article from the sustainability link to access this research article and share it with others as you continue your work on college and career competencies. We are always interested in hearing from you and your teams about what your team has been doing to develop teens' intra and interpersonal competencies, what you hope to continue to accomplish this coming year, and what your fears, barriers, or needs are as a college and career competency team. Please feel free to email Jane at jsukup@ku.edu, and remember to save the date for the second sustainability webinar on January 20th, 2016. We look forward to continuing to work with you and wish you the very best.